Life is super overwhelming and it feels like we're drowning in work, family, responsibilities, decisions, problems, and last but not least, what uncertainty the future will bring. So I'll be giving you a 5-step framework to deal with each of these, and by the end of this video, I guarantee you'll be walking away with never heard before action steps that you can use to make your life less overwhelming. And this was all inspired by Meditations for Mortals, Oliver Burkeman's latest book. He's a journalist at The Guardian and also the author of global bestseller 4,000 Weeks. And I'm Liz. I love reading, awesome books like these and then turning them into fun videos. And this first step is by far the easiest to implement, yet not many people know about this. Let me know if this sounds familiar. Every day at work, you have a ton of stuff that comes in. At the end of each day, you get some done, but not everything. You feel like a failure, and the stress of your mounting to-do list gets heavier by the day. You think that one day, once you figure out how to properly manage your time, once you get much more efficient, you'll finally be able to get everything done. And finally, you'll feel on top of things. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to break it to you, but this is never going to happen. The truth is that the incoming supply of things that feel as though they genuinely need doing isn't merely large, but to all intents and purposes, infinite. So getting through them all isn't just very difficult, it's impossible. Imagine each of your workdays as a bucket. There's a limit to the number of things that can go into your bucket. On the other hand, I honestly love Oliver's analogy here. Imagine the number of things that you must do in life like a constantly flowing river. The incoming supply of things are, like what Oliver says, to all intents and purposes, infinite. This applies to many things in your work life, like email, work tasks, new projects, meetings, books, articles, and the news. You can try to move more quickly through this infinite supply, but you'll never get to the end of it, and you'll never have the satisfaction of ever being on top of things. So you need to learn to pick out only the most important tasks and ignore the rest. For email, do not reply to whatever doesn't need replying. Learn to say no to everything else that doesn't fit into your day, be it new projects or meetings. For books and articles, skim through whatever can be skimmed and ignore the rest. It is only when you accept this truth that you will never get everything done will you finally be able to make the most progress in your life by getting only the most important things done without feeling guilty that you're letting everything else float by. Now, the next step is by far the most important, yet also the most overlooked. Perhaps you may be thinking this: I've got my schedule planned out, everything's time boxed nicely, I can actually get a lot done in a day, provided that my partner and my kids stop interrupting me. Sometimes we cling too rigidly to our time blocked days, myself included. And what happens? These interruptions end up feeling worse than they actually are. And even after the interruption has passed, I'm sometimes still too irritated and too unfocused to get back to work. So when something like this happens, as it usually always will, instead of wishing that it'll never happen, Oliver suggests fighting it a little bit less. Don't think of it as an interruption, but as a short break to refresh your mind instead, while giving the other person your full attention. Overall, it makes it a lot more pleasant for not just you, but the other person too. And speaking of interruptions, check out this video.
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me. My apologies.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. Sorry.
After the event, Robert Kelly thought that no TV network would ever call them again, but the opposite proved the case. You can never tell in advance. We try so hard to cling to the rock face of fixed focus. We fall off again and again, yet when we do, the world catches us every time. These small but beautiful moments of connection, not interruptions, throughout the day are what life is supposed to be about. So don't overlook them. The next step I'm about to share with you is perhaps the most disregarded one of them all, but yet this drives the most result in your life. There are 1,000,001 decisions that you would need to make in your life. Previously, one decision I struggled with was whether to quit my job to become a content creator. For years and years, I remained undecided, stuck in my job even though I hated it. And it's only now when I read, Oliver's books that I actually realized why. Indecision can feel oddly comfortable because it's a form of postponement, a temporary avoidance of the painful sacrifices involved. To make a decision, any decision, is to take ownership of the situation instead. In my head, not making a decision was to keep my dream alive while basking in the security of a steady paycheck from my office job. On the other hand, to make a decision to quit my job would be to walk through one door and close the other door entirely. And if things don't work out, I have to take responsibility to admit that, that was my bad. So if you're struggling with any decision in life, your job now is to take imperfect action. Let's say you're like me, wanting to quit your job to start your own small business. The first step you could take is speaking to a friend who's already done that, so you can get good advice from them. Then take the next baby step, like saving up an emergency fund, then working before or after work every single day, then working on the weekends as well. Don't wait for the perfect time because it'll never happen. Instead, take imperfect action for every decision in life. Remember, not making a decision is still a decision to remain exactly where you are now. Now that you know how to make decisions, the next step is by far the easiest, yet most people overcomplicate it. Most of us move through life thinking that one day will come when we won't have problems. We tell ourselves things like, when we have enough money, when the business earns more, when my YouTube channel explodes, when the kids are grown, when we retire and stop working. Then life will be perfect. Sound familiar? But the honest truth is that life is an unending series of complications, so it doesn't make any sense to be surprised by the arrival of the next complication or the next problem. Let's say right now you're still working an office job, dreaming of one day getting to financial freedom. Then you'll be problem-free, right? With money, everything is possible, right? Well, not exactly. An economic downturn can wipe out half your portfolio overnight, and without a steady source of income, that's gonna make anyone worry. Or without a job, you find your days boring, full of nothing, existential dread sets in. Or now that you and your partner are both financially free and always together, you guys argue a lot more than you expected. That's life though, it's an unending series of complications. And Oliver came to accept that life will never be problem-free. Instead of spending his time being upset and cursing the universe that he had to face a problem in the first place, he was able to dig into each problem much more effectively because that's where all his energy is now directed towards. And remember, coming up on top in spite of problems is what truly makes life meaningful, not the lack of problems in the first place. Now that you know what to expect when life throws mud at you, we can now move on to everyone's favorite step, dealing with the future. Imagine this scenario. You spent all month studying hard for the really important exam you just took yesterday. This could be a school entrance exam, a professional qualification exam, or so on. But the thing is, you're not sure how well you did, and the results will be out in 2 weeks. What do you do until then? Do you A, just carry on with your life as it is, or B, do you spend the next 2 weeks worrying endlessly about it? If you said A, congrats, you're an alien, and if you said B, welcome, you're just like every other human being on Earth. In the prehistoric environment, worrying made perfect sense. If you heard a rustling in the bushes, it was vital to fixate on what might be causing it. This would have kept you alert until a few seconds later, you could confirm that it was only a harmless bird. The trouble is that today, we live in what's been called a delayed return environment, in which it can take weeks or months to discover if a potential problem is real or not. If your worry concerns something less immediate than a rustling in the bushes, then worrying just isn't a useful behavior. Let's continue with the exam example. Of course, it would be great if you passed the exam. That's ideal. But what if you fail? That's where planning for the future is fine. You should come up with a few backup plans here, like a plan B, maybe even a plan C, and a plan D. Once you do so, let go of it and move on with your life. On the other hand, when you worry endlessly, what you're trying to do is to picture every conceivable outcome and every conceivable solution to that outcome. However, the problem here is that we can't possibly think up the infinite number of conceivable yet statistically unlikely outcomes, and we end up wasting too much time trying to do so. And in doing so, we are unable to enjoy the present. So here's what to do instead. Stop trying to manipulate a future that cannot be manipulated. Instead, your only job now is to simply take the next one step ahead of you. just one step and stop thinking about the next 10, 20, or 30 steps ahead. Stop doing such utterly useless things and instead let the future be the future, because there will never be a time where your future is completely certain. There will never be a time when you will come to feel like you're on top of everything. There will never be a time where family or people stop interrupting you. There will never be a perfect time to make a decision, and there will never be a time where your life will be problem-free. Instead, learn to embrace your finitude, your limitations, and accept that life will never be perfect for you, for me, for anyone. Also, I summarized every Oliver Burkeman book on this video on the screen here. I'll get it up soon, and I'll see you in that one.